Bom dia a todos. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this second workshop of the Atlantic Action Plan on digital learning and Blue Schools impact. It is the second workshop of the Pillar 1 and Pillar 2. They are jointly organized by these two pillars because ocean literacy and careers are very much something that is important for all the pillars of the Atlantic Action Plan. So today we will address in more detail some topics that were highlighted by the stakeholders as important for ocean literacy during the previous two workshops that we have organized. And these topics are digital learning, and also the evaluation of Blue education. Digital learning, everybody has come to digital learning during the pandemics, and teachers were forced to learn very quickly to use digital tools. So there was a kind of a partial digitalization of education that went on very quickly. Now what we have discovered is that some of these techniques and tools are there to stay, and we should harness their power for digital education. And today we will discuss precisely that. We will have some examples of different tools, from animations to applications to 3D or augmented reality, that can be useful for Blue education. The other topic that has been highlighted by the stakeholders is the importance of evaluating Blue education to know where we are and where should we go. There are some experiences in different parts of Europe that have been going on for several years and that have been subject or are being subject to evaluation. And it would be important to have the lessons learned, because we also have the European network of Blue schools that is now completing its almost 2 years, although those were very troubled years during the pandemic, but schools are spreading the word and are spreading the word and are getting into this network more and more. And we need to know what are the best practices and to learn with the others. So these are the two topics that will be addressed in this workshop, and we do hope that by putting all these stakeholders together, discussing these topics, we will be able to create new projects, new collaborative partnerships that will fulfill the Atlantic Action Plan. Thank you. Now I pass the floor to Conceição Santos, who is the acting director of who is representing the coordination. She is the acting director of the policy of the sea in Portugal.
Good morning, everyone. As I said before, since we have translation, I will take the opportunity to speak in Portuguese.
It is a great pleasure to be here today. I would like to welcome everybody to this workshop, another workshop we're doing. Portugal has considered this strategic pillar as something very important, so it is a great pleasure to organize through Professor Ana Noronha the coordination for this pillar. The ocean literacy, we believe, is something very important, quite fundamental for to develop a sustainable economy. And today in this workshop, we are going to have we're going to talk about two main things which are very relevant for this subject. Here in Portugal, as you know, we have the Blue School program, which tries to take on the ground and spreads this information about the ocean literacy and working with different schools and spreading the word. We have had this experience, like all of you, with the pandemic, and we know that the pandemic has brought us many teachings, many lessons in regarding the importance of digitalization in this area. We've had good experiences and not so good experiences. Talking about the good lessons that we've learned, I would like to highlight which is the fundamental tools that we've learned to develop networks and great projects for the Atlantic. This is technology which will bring us together, work together, and will help us to work closely with everybody within the network. So we think it's very important to work within this ocean strategy and use these strategies. Portugal is also included in the All Atlantic All Schools network, which has 15 countries like Argentina, Canada, South Africa, and so on, Brazil, and so on. So we believe that these technologies will help us to work closer with these different networks across the Atlantic and to take all this experience of these blue schools. So we believe this first part of our workshop is definitely fundamental, speaking about these positive things. Also, not so positive, and what we've learned through the pandemic is that it's important to plan ahead, because when we don't do it, or when we have to rush things like it happened with the pandemic, we can't always do it, and it creates a lot of stress, and many times we end up having situations which are not very inclusive, because it actually doesn't not everybody has access to these tools. So this is one aspect. Speaking about another aspect of this workshop and the evaluation. Evaluation is definitely fundamental in any tool that is implemented in Portugal. We try to do it and in any strategy, and once again we try to assess this program of the Blue School through the Ministry of Education and of the Sea. So that's why Raquel Costa, who has experience in this area and who's been coordinating the Blue School network within the ministry, she will address and speak more about the Portuguese experience, what we did regarding this, because without assessing this program, we don't really know whether we're heading in the right direction, whether we're going too slow, too fast, whether we're reaching out to whom we want. So this is quite fundamental. And it's very important to separate, to see what's a monitoring and assessing. When we monitor something, we check every day, we see how the work is going, whereas the assessment and evaluation is a more external overview and checking whether we reach the goals or not. So this is our way of thinking, and this is our experience, a specific experience with the Blue School. So without further ado, because we know that you're the main actors really today, I would like to just say how important this pillar is for us and the importance of this workshop, and to listen to your experience so we can create a great network with the strategy for the Atlantic and the ocean literacy. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Conceição.
Andy, do you?
Yes.
Yeah,
so,
okay.
I was waiting
morning.
for somebody else maybe before
Thank you.
me, but if it is on me, then I would like to thank everybody here today taking the time to debate ocean literacy, which has come to become a very important element of blue education and blue interaction for youngsters, even at a very early stage at school age. You heard Anna saying that we have been in the lead for a couple of years now at the EU level, of a network of European blue schools. taking inspiration and based on the pioneering actions of Escola Azul, actually in Portugal, which has set the pace for these kind of interactions and educations within the school context. And we had a bumpy start, of course, with the pandemic, but these 2 years past has allowed us to gather the reflexes of the community, of the school community, and to actually see that there is a lot of traction on the issue of learning about the ocean and its sustainability at early stages at school. So this is a practice that needs to be pursued further, and for it to be pursued further, it needs a relevant support. Support in terms of tools, as Anna suggested, and especially digital tools, because of the transition that we are seeing these days that affects all walks of life, all areas of human interaction, education as well. And for that, we need to centralize and repertory, if you like, the vast array of tools that exist out there, digital or otherwise, or tools, classic tools that could be used as input for the development of digital learning, digital ocean literacy learning, such as the Atlas of the Seas, the series of maps that the European Commission has been promoting for some years now, and which could feed into digital programs, projects, digital products, and be used in augmented reality tools, for example. So there are a lot of things, digital, traditional or otherwise, that could be blended, could be merged, could need to be looked into carefully to be integrated in learning in school on ocean literacy. And there is also a need to see where we stand in terms of actually making the youth, the school kids, be really aware of the principles of ocean literacy and of how sustainability, ocean sustainability in the marine environment comes about. For this, and to help us, we might have recourse in the next couple of years, 3, to the pathfinders, if you like, to the pioneers in this area, IOC, UNESCO. They have developed the ocean literacy principles, the questionnaire in the past. They are in the lead of ocean literacy around the world. And since the European Commission has recently entered into an agreement with them to promote the work of the EU4Ocean Coalition and all of its communities, the network of blue schools as well, we could have recourse to their knowledge, expertise, and ideas to see how we go about this assessment of ocean literacy and of blue education in European schools. This is just an idea which is worth pursuing further, examining more in the future. And I would be waiting very much on the discussions of today and the conclusions and ideas that will circulate today in our discussion to see how we can take this further. Thank you very much, and I wish you a fruitful couple of hours ahead.
Thank you, Andy, for your support to our workshop. And we now pass for the first panel, which will be moderated by Miguel Marques. So, Miguel, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Anna. And thank you to all panelists that accepted to be in this workshop to talk about different technologies and tools. So this is 1 hour dedicated to a very important enabler, which is the Blue Digital Learning Resources. As yesterday, we invited around 50 people very deeply engaged in this topic. And we would like to dive very deeply to understand the status where we are and also to understand where should we go. For this panel, I would start with Frederico Almada to understand his vision of how these digital tools can help to boost ocean literacy. Please, Frederico.
Thank you, Miguel. I hope that all of you are hearing me fine. I will just share my presentation and try to keep within the time that is available for me. First of all, let me pick on Hannah's words with the panel 1 and 2. Of course, that we will be hearing here about digital tools. That's what I come to present you. But also, since these things are interconnected, of course, we are also interested in measuring the impact of these tools and the ocean literacy topics that we bring to all the participants in this Kids Dive project that I come to present you. And for this, with this purpose, we are also cooperating with Claudia Faria, which will be talking in the panel 2 today. Also, I would also like to pick on Conceição Santos' words, since she told that this is a meeting on Atlantic cooperation, and some of the images that I will be showing are actually within the Atlantic. So Kids Dive project is a project on ocean literacy. Among our partners, you can see here that Escola Azul is one of them. And Raquel Costa is also here present today with us. And so what I have to tell you is that since we are marine biologists and researchers, of course, we notice in our day-to-day work that things are not getting better. In fact, they are getting worse. And so we felt the need to call the attention to more than our academic partners. And so we try to involve schools. And that's where Blue School came in this project, because as we speak this week, we are having our first international experience with Blue School from Norway. So it's the first time that we are doing it with a school from abroad. To give you a general idea, Kids Dive project on ocean literacy is a project that involves all the participants in the 4 days activity. And of course, given the name of the project, it involves lots of scuba diving. And this is where the project that I will talk, the part of the project that I will be talking about today will enter. This was made available by a National Geographic Education grant that we have managed to get last year. And with this grant, we were able to create some contents on digital image, as you can see here. So here in this side of the screen, you can see a cardboard VR 360 mask, which you can use with a smartphone. And when you put the smartphone within this cardboard mask, you can actually see images on a 360 environment and on 3D perspective. And so we use it to do our own scuba dives, and I have some images to show you. These are the images of the students using these masks in the classroom, because we are not able to get together due to COVID-19 pandemic. And so we recorded some videos underwater, and we were able to pass them on to the students, and where they can interact with these cardboard masks. They are really cheap, so it was easy to send them to each school. There are no risks, because each student kept one individual mask. And of course, we were able to share the videos via online links that we were able to also to talk to the kids at the schools. I will now show you the image of some of the footage that we have been able to collect. So you have here some images in Porto Santo Island in Madeira Archipelago. And here you can not only see the kind of image that we can collect, but also the simplicity of the method. So here you can see the camera, the 360 camera. Here you can see the the pack that you use to take it underwater. And here you have a coin of €1 so that you can have an idea of the perspective of the size of the whole apparatus. Editing the video was really simple because it's really simple camera. And so we were able not only to do this kind of work, but also to grow in terms of impact, which means that with this digital tool, we were able to reach a much larger audience than we were in the presential format of Kids Dive project. So I'm almost reaching the end to keep my promise of keeping my time inside of 5 minutes. If you want to know more about this project, you can just visit us in our social media and also in our webpage. But mostly I will be available to clarify any doubt that you may have about how to use these tools and how simple it is to do it. Because as you may know, I'm not working on video, image, or editing videos. So I'm just a marine biologist. But it was really easy to use this camera and to share these videos via YouTube. So I'm available for any questions that you may have. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Frederico, for this fantastic enabler. I'd like to share to everyone that the way we're thinking this panel is very dynamic, so there will be next 2 presentations and then a lot of questions from challengers and the audience. So I'm sure there is a lot of questions to you, Frederico. Stay tuned. So, and now Francesco Pitito from Enjoy in Barcelona, Spain. If you do not mind, Francesco.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for having me here. I'd like to share my presentation too, if you allow me, just. Okay. I hope you are seeing my presentation right now.
Yes, very well.
Okay, so I'm Francesco Pitito. I'm the CEO of Enjoy, which is a startup based in Barcelona and born with the clear objective to create entertaining and immersive experience to help people to reconnect with nature, leveraging, in this case, the power of augmented reality and artificial intelligence whenever possible. For example, by popping out some animals from your mobile or from some interactive and dynamic screen we are developing at the moment. At Enjoy, we are working mainly in 2 lines for fostering the reconnection and spreading also and increasing the awareness towards sustainability and ocean literacy. The first one is marine and sustainable tourism, in particular, starting from the point that more than 70% of the visitors of natural parks and museums and natural areas declare to get bored after a while and to not enjoy the visit. We came up with analysis in which the visitors have changed along the time, and now they are looking for engaging experience, for experience that makes their free time or their holiday memorable. And in particular, there is a huge need of engaging young people and family with kids. So with that, we came up with the idea to an app in augmented reality in which just pointing at some object of interest, in this case, is the base of the column at the entrance of the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona, and then a 3D model of a turtle immediately come up. And then you can explore that, zoom in, zoom out, try and engage with the virtual environment as long as with the real environment, and discover, according to your own curiosity, exploring, for example, multimedia content, games, curiosity, etc. We have several ongoing projects at the moment. Just one of them, the e-sepia, which is the reproduction of the life cycle of a cuttlefish, in which we are creating the 3D model of the animal, and we are also modeling the movement and the behavior of the animal, so that the experience can go way beyond an experience of environmental education. It may reach the schools, it may reach an overall public, and may foster, for example, in the case of Isepia and Il Pesce in Sciarcia, may foster the sustainable consumption of fish and fish products that are caught with sustainable fishing gears. The main benefits of that, according to our experience, are an increasing awareness and the foster of sustainable habit on people that getting engaged are more prone and have more probability to adopt more sustainable habits. The visit may be also virtual and enjoyed by home and at school, and it may be also shared in social media, then endorsing that and augmented the visibility of the product and the spreading of these good habits. The second line we are working on is the marine environmental monitoring. We are helping scientists in studying and exploring better the environment. We started in 2020 with a 3D photogrammetric technique that was meant to be not expensive because it involved only the mobile phone we are using every day, easy to use and high resolution. We are arrived to a 0.1 millimeter resolution, and we are able then to scan an animal starting from photos, and having young people may enjoy that, or students or scientists enjoy and use that too. The benefit of the 3D model are reported here in 4 perspectives, starting from the photos, and in particular, think about scientists that may use that instead of the classical photos that are right now in the publication and scientific articles, in order to study, identify the animals, and even train young people and young technicians to do the job. And finally, I would like to conclude with another project we have in the pipeline right now, which is taxonomia, that is meant to help through artificial intelligence to identify species more quickly than to evaluate the quality of the environment in a very quicker way through the augmented reality that identifying the main character on the animals allow to directly evaluate the quality of the environment and to produce the relative and consequent maps. The main benefits of putting together and blending together the technology for scientists is that we are working with the Spanish National Research Council to download, in quote, and preserve the memory of experts that are now going to retire, to speed up the activities in the lab that are very time consuming sometimes, to achieve a better monitoring of the environment because cost is a very constraining variable, and to train new generation of experts in a very efficient and quicker way, because we realized that both in the tourism line and in the scientist line, the interaction with virtual things, but engaging the people, derive more retaining of information with less effort. And to spread again the positive impact of our products, we are now thinking about expanding that on snorkeling, on marine natural capital, and cartography in general. Again, I don't want to pass over so much from my allowed time. We would love to hear from you and to find together eventually a new application and new solution. You have here my email. I will be very happy to talk to you later on or in the next few days. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Francesco. And now I would like to call to the stage Kira Palan.
Hi.
Hi.
Hold on a second. I will share screen. Hello. So my main focus is not to preach to the converted, but to educate the masses who are not conscious and aware, and doing so with interactive narrative context, which is in essence, why isn't this working? Comic books, graphic novels, manga, material that kids read Now, there are different ways of approaching mass people through corporations, which can then help us, or through individuals. So in discussions with corporations, I sell them the ability to, and companies, to create custom-made comic books. And this would be, in essence, the reason why they should choose us as opposed to others, in as far as transmitting information that is interesting in narrative context. Why narrative context? Because storytelling has always worked. It is the one thing that everyone together can understand and appreciate. And within storytelling, one can embed the key bits of information for kids, for adults, for everyone. How does it, this is actually just for the app. We launched an application that uses these comic books, graphic novels, soon manga, interactively. And there are all these functionalities that help gamification, as well as the ability for corporations to track progress. So we have all sorts of different features and venues. In essence, because we're a mixture of language learning, content creation, and training, we have the capacity to reach a lot of people. We work with Éducation nationale in France, with a couple of universities in America, and now by achieving verticals, our reach is going to get stronger and stronger. This is all more for skills, employees, and such, which, by the way, is also applicable in the marine world, where if companies need to impart information on tools that need to be used for exploration, diving, or whatnot, we can do that too. So our favorite vertical is, of course, all things sustainability and the marine. I was talking to one of the top apps for children in the UK just 2 days ago, and they told me that already at 7 years old, children are beginning to manifest interest in the environment. And that is super important because in schools, we have the capacity to reach with custom-made comic books on all that is marine, but in narrative form so that they can empathize, sympathize, and be engaged and retain. But the ability to start early in schools, I think, is very important. So I'm thinking, this type of comic books would be quite interesting to be able to teach all the political alliances, what is blue economy, everything that the public and learners need to know. This is the go-to-market strategy to the personal learner and the corporate. And also what's interesting is we have many Trojan horses. So by teaching languages, because the app always teaches 2 languages, we can embark the entire language learning audience, so to say, learners out there, because we can always insert the custom-made comic books, for instance, for marine, on the platform together with the other comic books. Because we can teach several things simultaneously. We're on Android, we're on smartphone, we have 5 languages. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about because I think that will be the easiest way to. So you download the app, you choose a language, you choose the language you want to learn. And that is where you see there are all sorts of different comic books. And at the bottom end, we have a carousel that is about subjects and professions. And that is where I intend to insert as many comic books as possible about sustainability, green, blue, all of it, for our planet. So let's say you choose a comic book. This is just for you to give you an understanding of how it works. You choose the genres you like, you register, all the usual application stuff. It's gamified, it's fun, as you see. Subscriptions, this is just the flow. So this comic book we created to teach cryptocurrency. And it is the same example that we want to continue with for marine consciousness, actually. So what you do is with your finger, when you read the comic book, you just touch the bubbles, and this is what happens.
Picture a free world, a world without middlemen. Imagine.
You see, you switch the language slider, and that's how you learn a language, which is how you get to learners.
Un monde libre, un monde sans intermédiaire.
You can record yourself, so you can also send messages. For instance, if it's a mermaid that is explaining what is going, that tells her story in the environment, you can do the voice of the mermaid, just giving an example. And send it on social media. It's not very easy to do this. You can take a vocabulary. In other words, there's a lot of gamification, but I think you got the idea. So I'm going to skip more. Important to understand that there's a huge public we can reach with comic books about sustainability, about marine biology. And it's also fantastic because of the languages and the intercommunication. We already have all these comic books, so the attraction, the hameçon to reach people is already present. These are academics that say that, yes, our methodology is quite useful. The one that I created won the award for the best tool to teach economy and finance. We got the Prix lycéen. So in other words, it works. Obviously, we're totally engaged. And this is Stan Lee, Aquaman. Well, no, that's DC, sorry. Saying that he loved the system. That's all. Thank you so much. And anyone that wishes to collaborate with me, please let me know.
Thank you so much, Kira. And now I would ask Jerônimo Rocha.
Hello there.
Present.
Let me check the desktop here. There you are. So I'm from Take It Easy. Take It Easy is an animation department from the production company the production company is called Take It Easy. We are the animation studio from Take It Easy called Easy Lab. And we are, for the past 7 years, we've been working with a lot of projects that are had something to do with ONGs that are working on the environment, on environmental causes. We work with the SPEA, we work with the CELPA, we work with the Ministry of Agriculture and Fishing for some of the ads. And recently we've been working with Ciência Viva to create a television series that is going to transpose some elements that were created for a program of the Pavilion of Knowledge into a television series for kids that have to do with the learning of science, and I'm going to show you a teaser for that series.
Hi there. I'm Leo, a virtual assistant, but I like to think of myself as more than that. You see, the mammals from the What's It's All About family tend to get themselves into trouble during their scientific researches. They love science, a bit too much, and then it's up to me to save their skins. Especially the little ones. They're just too curious. Be it getting trapped in time, escaping an active volcano, or discovering the depths of the ocean. They just can't get enough. But with the help of science, they'll help us to better understand the marvels of the world we live in.
So did you hear it now?
Yes, very well.
Okay. So I have a little bit of an example. The series is going to be being produced September this year, and we have already a pilot. I'm going to show you just a little bit of the middle of one of the pilot episodes to show how it usually goes about with sound.
A supercell storm.
No, no, no.
Where are you going?
I have to close the panels.
Hydrometeors. Beautiful. Hydro what?
Hydrometeors. Drops frozen together, formed by the water layers accumulated in a large storm. Many times they're a warning sign for impending tornadoes.
Ouch! It really is a supercell.
We're not going anywhere.
PIN code? How do I know what's my PIN code? Rachel, honey, what's my PIN code? Just my luck. The first mothership storm, and I can't even film it.
Fasten your seatbelts, kids.
I don't get any of this. Supercells, motherships, what does it all even mean?
A supercell is a storm generated by a very strong whirlwind. They're usually easy to identify by their distinct alien mothership shape, similar to the ones portrayed in science fiction movies. The supercell storm formation is fostered by having upward air drafts that start to rotate. These are generated by hot air, which is less dense, being under the cold air, which is more dense, and pushing it up. 1 in every 5 supercell storms create tornadoes. When the air current begins to turn at a high speed, it means it's producing a large tornado. The water drop.
So it's a little bit of an example of how an episode can go. You have this family that goes around in a caravan, and they have this kind of virtual assistant that explains something to them, and each one of the kids has a special interest. So every episode is about a specific section of, I could be biology, could be paleontology, could be geology. So we have a huge field that we can tap into, and it has a little bit of an ancestry from the C'est la Vie animations of the 80s, and I guess Scooby-Doo. So it has a little bit of mystery, but also has a little bit of science. So thank you.
Thank you, Geronimo. And now it's time for Yvonne O'Byrne.
Hi, thanks for the invitation. It's great to be here today. I am coming to you from Munster Technology University, which is in Ireland, just down the south. I will just share my screen here quickly. Just let me know if you can see it. Is that okay?
We can see it, Yvonne. Thank you. Just put into slide share, yeah.
Perfect. So I'm coming from Munster Technology University. We were involved with a couple of the other people on this call, actually, in a project called MARENet, which was it's the Atlantic Maritime Ecosystem Network. is its full name, but it's MARENET for short. It was a 2-year project, which was co-funded by the European Maritime and Fisheries Fund, was launched back in November 2019, and it concluded just at the end of last year, in November 2021. We're made up of 8 partners from across the Atlantic frontage, including training centres, port economic sectors, public authorities. Together, we kind of made quite a good maritime representative from the ecosystem across Ireland, France, and Spain. So today I will kind of bring you through a little bit of what MTU's involvement in that was. So the overarching aim of MARENET was to strengthen cooperation between the maritime business and academia. And the main goal of that is to enhance the visibility of training and professional opportunities in the blue economy sector in Europe. How we wanted to achieve that, so the objectives, I suppose, were to design and implement a Northwest European Atlantic Maritime Network, which was made up of both training centres and industry. Sorry, my screen has just frozen there a second. Okay, oh, sorry, I have it back. So through that network, then we wanted to respond to the needs of the maritime market and maritime curricula and enhance the visibility and opportunities of blue economy and blue careers. Apologies, guys, my screen just doesn't seem to be moving to the next slide. There we go. So here in MTU, our role within the MARENET project was to develop a series of digital tools. So in order to support the objectives, the first year of the project, so sort of between 2019 and 2020, our job was mostly focused towards the development of a suite of interactive digital tools, which were integrated into our project website, marenet.org. And essentially what we tried to create was, in a single location, have a place basically where school leavers, graduates, academic and industry firms related to the maritime sector could come together to find or to share information about available training or professional opportunities in the blue economy, or to connect for the purpose of generating synergies, market growth, or knowledge sharing. So we created these 4 tools, the first of those being a course finder, which connects students with a catalogue of maritime training itineraries across Ireland, France and Spain. The second being a Blue Careers tool, which showcases blue career profiles in key maritime sectors. And the third was an online jobs board. And our last one was a B2B tool, which aimed to connect and bring closer together maritime industries and academic firms for the purpose of collaboration and knowledge sharing. So this is just kind of a quick look at our training catalogues. We've catalogued over 1,500 courses across Ireland, France and Spain. This was, I suppose, in response to a stakeholder survey, which showed that actually a lot of school leavers weren't aware of the range of courses that were available in their country, but also across Europe. So we tried to bring together a catalogue and create a digital tool which allowed us to map all the courses, but also have a search filter so that people could choose courses based off of their preference in terms of topic, duration, level, whether those be your traditional academic courses or industry-based courses in vocational training centres. I'll fly through this now. Our Blue Careers tool was an overview of some of the most popular in-demand careers in each identified maritime sector. So we tried to create a nice little tool with a little carousel whereby you could search different careers, and we were trying to just promote the different career opportunities that are available, I suppose the wide variety of the career opportunities that are available, and provide information to people who I suppose are in school, teenagers, on what the skills and workload requirements for each career are, as well as an estimate, I suppose, of potential earnings, which is something that they are always interested in. The third tool that we created was called MARENET Connect. This was a B2B or B2A tool which aimed to bring together and increase collaborations with industry peers, but also academic institutions. And there's a directory of maritime firms, again, from across Ireland, Spain and France, both academic and industry firms. There's a connect function. So I suppose what we tried to do is to create just a network where we could bring together all these people in one place, not too dissimilar to LinkedIn, but how it, I suppose, does differentiate itself is that anyone who signed up to MARENet Connect had to be first approved by the project itself. So it was a trusted space, a trusted sort of exclusive network for maritime firms, both academic and industry. And within that, then anyone on our network was able to advertise job vacancies and apprenticeship opportunities. Again, just having one location where you could have courses, careers and jobs, so that it made it easy for us to, you know, target school leavers and that sort of age cohort with entice them into blue careers and get more people involved in the blue economy. Lastly, so that the second year of MARENet, which was, I suppose, 2020 into 2021, we tried to then use the network that we had built to share knowledge. And through that, we created a digital knowledge transfer tool, which was an online learning space. So we created a bespoke space, which is linked to our website, where we were able to deliver training courses. These training courses were in response to what our network said that they wanted, whether those be courses that were run, some were run hybrid, some were run in person, and some were run fully online. So for example, in MTU, we ran a course on an introduction to Industry 4.0 in the ports that was run fully online, and we had over 200 people subscribe to the course from not just Ireland, but also across France and Spain. So it just increased the reach of the courses by having them online. I think in making use of that, you know, virtual learning really does increase your reach outside of your own country and across the Atlantic frontage. But there were also hybrid sessions run across a broad range of topics. Again, by creating the space, we then were able to provide courses in whatever topics the network said that they would like and help and support on. We helped them to find trainers. And then once we had trainers, we promoted the courses, and we ran in total, I think, over 12 courses in that space. We also had stuff for primary schools. We created a game, a fishing game for primary schools to try and engage those younger learners as well. But I think just to come back to Miguel's point at the start is that a lot of work has been done already. There's still a lot of work to be done, but we're not starting from scratch. There are a lot of tools that are there that can be utilised moving forward with the Atlantic strategy, and I think that we can make use of some of the tools that have already been funded through the EU, and that would be a good sort of building block to start from. But if anyone has any questions, you can visit our website or contact myself.
Thank you so much, Yvonne, and thank you for your presentation also, because before I ask the challengers to challenge, and I believe I have here Kushla and Ondina to do so, I would like to start the challenge by question or asking to Francesco Pitito, Kira, and maybe Geronimo, if your tools also could be adapted to try to reskill more people and also try to promote blue careers in a way that they can be more attractive. Maybe starting by Kira, I don't know.
Absolutely. The whole point of it is to instruct and build love for the planet. So when you have love and you have empathy and you have interest, then you want to learn skills and learn everything you can do to maintain, help, etc. So yes. And then as we get more specialized, if a company wishes to have a very specific instruction, if you will, narrative, but remember, always narrative, that means in a story that has to do with humans and fun and so on, you insert the necessary information. And when the moment comes and we can insert information for blue economy, everything blue, yes, we shall do it, we can do it, and we want to do it. And it works. Narrative, TV, films, all of that are keys to get attraction, people, involvement, upskilling, interest in the project, interest in learning, interest in becoming involved on all levels.
Thank you so much, Kira. Francesco, does your tool is able also to replicate little devices and so on and so forth that could be helpful for training people on reskilling?
Yes, it is, because I completely agree with Kira. I would like just to add two keywords that for us are very important, that are engagement and gamification. Immersive technology, like the one we use and propose in creating our experience, allow people to get engaged with the subject we are dealing with, no matter if it is a visit to a museum or a national park or a training on new skills. And the first thing is that designing an experience, taking into account the gamification and then the game part of the experience, you will allow, using immersive technology, to make people learn, train, and act without almost any effort. Everybody, it's a common sense that when you play or when kids play, they are learning. And they are learning without any formal education or without any effort that comes from reading much better than staying at school the whole day. But they are learning something. The same principle applied to a mobile app or a web app, and with augmented reality, allow people to learn almost without effort and to retain for a longer time the information they are learning. And actually, just to finish my contribution, we are training at the moment with the Spanish National Research Council new taxonomists, that mean people that identify species in the marine environment, through the power of augmented reality, to allow them, instead of looking at a lot of bibliography, to look at 3D models that augment again the retention of the information.
Thank you, Francisco. Just a fast note from Geronimo.
Well, I agree with Kira and Francisco. We are currently working on a project with CELPA that is exactly trying to capture. The CELPA works with schools and teaches them how the Portuguese, the trees of the Portuguese forest and the animals of the Portuguese forests, and how to recycle. And they are very into that kind of hands-on learning. So we started to, although it's not our field, we started to develop games. So the gamification definitely was important for the evolution of the communication with the children. And we started to develop tools and games to teach them how to, for instance, to recycle. And we created a little game where the main character of the mission 360 of CELPA has to constantly try to collect garbage and put it in the right place and start to make the connections between colors and what kind of garbage and what kind of separation he must do. And it was done by having fun. And after a while, the kid already almost instinctively knows how to connect the colors to the kind of the garbage, and now we are starting to instead of just doing films, when we start a cycle of a year, we think of a film with a game connected to that film, and we start to develop everything at the same time in a very 360 way. So, well, I agree with Kira and Francisco.
Thank you so much, Geronimo. Now the challengers. So Kushla, could you start?
Thanks, Miguel. Thank you, everyone, for your amazing presentations. And it's very, it's inspiring to see the the digital world in action. And as was said before, I work with a lot of primary schools and teachers, and the digital experience is definitely an opportunity to enable children to learn. One of my questions is, and to the panel of speakers, is with regards to the content that is produced, how can that, or it's a double sort of edged question really, is that how do you feel about content that is, particularly those of which is animation and cartoon, is the actual versus the reality immersion of sort of particularly sort of like might be learning about the ocean. And it's like what sort of research has been done to show the retention rate and the learning comparabilities between sort of like the real immersion versus the cartoon sort of animation. So that's one question. And then the other question is really the shelf life of content that is produced, and how long does it, it's because one of the challenges that I'm having myself is when producing the immersion or cartoon and even film, is the cost, and the cost of that versus how long a teacher is going to be able to use it for before a child will want to move on to the next film or the next animation. So
Thank you, Kushla. Maybe Frederico Almada would start to answer the questions. We have some hands standing, but Frederico, would you have any comments?
Well, I don't know if this was not more applicable to Kira's presentation and also to Francesco, but in terms of the Kids Dive and the tool that I just present you, we actually don't have that much work besides kind of making an interpretation of what they are seeing in these 3D or 360 videos that they are seeing. Of course, that we provide the videos, but we want them to go beyond only a nice experience watching what they see. We want them to interpret what they see. We want them to understand, for instance, that some of the species that they are able to see are endangered species, and why they are endangered species. And so it's that kind of interpretation that I think is fundamental if you want to reach the objectives of not only make some environmental sensibilization, but also to provide some ocean literacy to your audience. And actually, I believe that there will be, mostly in panel 2, some colleagues that will be able to go beyond this point, because as I told you, I'm a marine biologist and a researcher, but I found some nice collaborations among colleagues that are working on education and trying to measure both how we are changing ocean literacy with inquiries, for instance, but also by trying to evaluate, which is a lot harder, if we are changing behaviors. And that's our main goal with Kids Dive.
Thank you, Frederico. I believe we have a very, very strong panel here, and your example is an example that we can do great things in a cheap way. And also, I believe, at least for what I understood of your content, it's for live content, because it's pure nature. But now, Kira, maybe it's your time to say something about it.
I wanted to address the question that Kushla, sorry if I mispronounced your name, put on the table, which was engagement and continuity. Continuity, that is where narrative is so important. What is narrative? Narrative is a story. It's what you see in films that that you feel for characters that you engage with, heroes, all that is what keeps the attention. That is what people want to return to, which is why series are very successful, because you want to continue to see the characters. And it is a matter of including the information that we need to transmit into the stories, but in a seamless, practically subliminal way, where people are educated without even knowing. It's not factual. Factual is great once you're fascinated by the subject, but the ones that are fascinated by the subject are not the ones that we need to reach. It's the ones that don't know a damn thing that we need to reach. So that is where narrative is essential. I come from media, by the way. And so this is the understanding of communication, media, narrative on my specialty. But to Francesco's point, immersive and, well, gamification is part of the app, which is not part of narrative, but is part of the app which adds. The ability of that technology offers for immersion and experience, the experiential, is fantastic. But if you combine it with narrative, then it's the hyper work. Alone, it is still factual. And for factual, the attention span, you just can't tell how long it's going to last. You've already got to get the person seriously engaged. And that is why I am advocating narrative with as strongly as I can.
Thank you so much, Kira. I believe Francesco wants to say something, but please be fast, because I
will be very quick. I will be very quick in both answers. I completely agree with Kira. For me, the key word to match together the gamification, the technology that per se is useless, and the narrative is creating the experience. For me, the experience includes the technology, the way you use the technology, and the story you tell in order to engage your people. I completely agree that technology per se doesn't engage anybody completely. And to come to the second point, which is for me very sensitive but very interesting, the question of Kusha, which was about the cost. We experimented since the beginning that problem, and at the moment we try to address experiences that derive a lot of traffic, a lot of potential users, so that balancing the needed investment with the return of the huge people that may benefit from them. But again, we have completely that in mind, and we are trying to work in order to provide anybody the tools to create their own experience at a lower cost. Like in other cases,
what is your cost, for instance? Give me an example.
It completely depends on the resolution, on the story, on a quantity you want to do.
Sorry, Kira and Francesco, I understand all your point of views. They are fantastic, but for time management, I need to jump to Ondina, Espírito Santo to challenge the group. So please, Ondina.
Then I'll say something. Creating a comic book is very cheap comparatively, and digital distribution is immediate for everyone. That is also one of the big assets that...
Thank you, Kira. Thank you, Kira. Yeah. But Ondina must have time to speak. Please.
Olá. Portanto, eu não sei exatamente qual era a pergunta que me estavam a fazer.
I am not sure which was the question. The objective, Ondina, is for you to ask a question to the panel. Well, I am just amazed by the tools you brought, and everything has to do with immersive experiences, right? And I would love these tools would be directed to active technologies. And it looks like we're not giving students something that is given. So students are building from a tool all the information that they need. They are creating videos, and that's part of the immersive experience. So we do not have exclusive tools for us. Gamification for me extremely important. For instance, Minecraft. So it's kind of a make-believe that these are immersive experiences. Thank you, Andina. This is an excellent question. And I will try to ask it in English.
With the use of these tools, not for lecture, not to say the answer directly.
I lost the voice.
Is everyone hearing me?
Yes.
Yes. I believe it's with Kira problem.
Okay.
So, and the question is, and could be addressed maybe by Geronimo, if we can use these tools to build together the story or to create a more active learning process and experience, not by us to create 100% of the story or to leave room to the kids to co-create together. So, Geronimo, please.
Well, I'm not sure if I'm the most qualified person to answer this, because we work with established software to create content for the audience, in this case for kids. The only way we will do such a thing would be with workshops, to bring them and to teach them how to create a story, doing all the classical techniques of storyboard, thumbnails, to pitch the ideas to each other and to create the story step by step, like we do. We ourselves don't develop the tools that we use to produce the content.
Thank you, Geronimo. I don't know, Francesco, if you want to say something on this context.
I don't know if I understood well the question. On my opinion, again, the thing is, technology gives you the tool to create experience, and starting from what you want, it's like a map. You can choose the starting point, which is the technology you have available at the moment, and you can choose the destination. Then you can pick up the right technology to create the right experience, to create the right travel itinerary. That's my point of view for the technology. Depending on what you want to achieve on your public and on the objectives of the work, you pick up the right technology available at the moment to create the experience. And the experience will encompass the narrative, the factual content, the gamification, the factors that will get your customers involved.
Thank you so much, Francesco. We are run out of time, and I have Anna with her hand standing. I don't know if it is for a question or for start her panel, but I would love to thank everyone and also ask Yvonne if it's possible in the future to include Portugal in this fantastic journey of her experience. And maybe
that was my question.
Of course.
Yeah,
of course.
if you have a question, you can ask a question, Anna, please.
No, that was my question, Miguel. We are working together, and we already think by transmission, Bluetooth or something.
No, definitely. Okay, when we look for new funding, that is where we're definitely looking for new partners. So,
okay.
Portugal.
Before hand over to you, Anna, if there is any, we will accept one question from the audience if there is someone on the audience that would love to ask a question. Okay. So, Anna, up to you. Oh?
Desculpa, Adelina Machado, posso fazer a minha pergunta?
Pronto. Pode sim, Helena, força.
Ok.
Excuse me, this is Lena Machado. I have a question. My problem, and well, I loved hearing you, and just as Andina mentioned, I am already checking how I can introduce some of these apps in the classroom because, as I said, I loved it. But one of the main problems and is teachers training so that they can use, regardless anything else, these tools and how they can use these tools in the classroom. So this is a question that I leave for you because I know that we don't have much time. Thank you, Andina, because this is very important, is introducing these tools in the classrooms, and that has a cost. We have information and also human resources.
And any people that would like to answer. So the question is about the trainers, the teachers. How can we train them to use this? How complex that could be? Please, Yvonne.
So I think it's really important to get teachers on board at the start. I mean, we can't expect that teachers know how to use these tools. So it's very important to have, I think, that in mind. I think it's a very good point. When we started to deliver some of our training courses, we put out an open call for learners to actually become involved. So like we ran a course for ports, but it wasn't just targeted at people working in ports. It was actually targeted at people who teach on those vocational training courses to come along and to learn about new technologies so that they can then take those learnings back into where they are teaching. And I know that our tools are probably targeted at more teenagers and early school leavers, but it's a similar concept, I think, to have training open to teachers. Like they're the ones who are, if we can teach teachers, you're almost creating a pyramid scheme whereby then you're spreading the message further and wider than any one of us has the capability to do by ourselves.
I would like to talk about my direct experience with the French national education system, where the idea was to give them to give free comics for teachers to teach Italian. Very simple: download, open, click. Man, you have to give explanations that are unbelievable because teachers just are from the technology point of view. The ABC is a problem. So you have to seriously think about how to make it super simple. So for instance, our solution, I just had a meeting with them last week, was to give QR codes for the comic book. So they ordered a certain amount of comic books. We give them the QR code. They give it to the teachers. The teachers know that all they need to do is to show the QR code, and then show the QR code to the kids. So it trickles down. But you must think when you talk about teachers that whatever you offer has to be absolutely minimized in complexity.
Thank you, Kira. I believe this would originate a new forum of one morning. So, but your message, I think, was understood. I'm not sure that everyone agrees with, but we will have another panel to continue debating this issue. So thank you so much all. Anna, is now your time.
Okay, so thank you, Miguel. We will now have the other panel where we will see how to evaluate and different experiences in evaluating Blue schools and the Blue education projects. We teachers who some have more experience in the digital, others less, but I can guarantee that during the past 2 years, they have all become experts in IT, or at least very near to that, because they had to make do with what they had. Now, we will now have the second panel, and we will start with Cláudia Faria from Instituto de Educação Portugal. Instituto de Educação, Cláudia is evaluating the Escola Azul, the Portuguese project Escola Azul, and I guess she has also participated in some evaluation of the Kids Life. So we are here with two projects and their evaluator.
Olá, bom dia. Desculpem, eu vou falar em português porque não...
Morning, and I apologize. I'm going to speak in Portuguese because I wasn't quite prepared. So I would like to thank you for this invitation. I'm going to share here my screen, and I'm going to try to be very quick. I just wanted to speak a little bit about the different dimensions involved in ocean literacy, because when we think of evaluation, we have to think of what do we want to assess, what's involved, what type of dimensions are involved in this such a big concept as the ocean literacy. And we all know that ocean literacy, this idea corresponds to understand the development of understanding the ocean and this interaction between us and the ocean. So it's not just the knowledge per se about the ocean, which is something that we normally assess. And in this sense, this ocean literacy has to include cognitive processes. Obviously, it has to do with the knowledge, but also to do with the emotion, with the culture involved. And this is where I want to focus a little bit more, because it's the aspects that are normally not assessed when we do these kind of projects. So obviously the knowledge is very important because so that we can have a pro-environmental behavior. People have to understand the ocean, they have to be aware of the environment and know about the ocean and the issues that the ocean is facing. But the story doesn't finish just there. And we know that there's several studies today that showed that despite the levels of concerns having increased, this relationship is not quite so linear and something's missing. And we know that this something has to do with the familiarity and the personal experiences that people develop with the ocean. So this emotional development and relationship which has got to do with intrinsic factors like personal factors, but also outwards like social, cultural aspects which will influence the knowledge, the pre-thinking and the ability to be predisposed for this kind of point. So this will act as a bridge between the knowledge and the pro-environmental actions. So we worry obviously about something we are concerned about and something we love. So this is something very important when we have to consider when we want to promote ocean literacy. So this concept of environmental awareness is one of these dimensions in the ocean literacy, and will give us the ability to reflect on ourselves, on our actions and the consequences, and it will culminate hopefully with a change of behavior when regarding the ocean. So this change of behavior, pro-environmental behavior, is a new dimension that is created and has to do with the possibility or the capability to put in practice all these strategies, these actions, to be able to influence the peers. So it could be activism, it could be individual behaviors which will influence other people with whom we also interact. And we normally call this action skills. And I'm just giving you a summary really to try to give you like a basis where we can assess these different dimensions that we can assess. So I'm just giving you really a brief summary. And as regards the action skills, it's got to do with the pro-environmental behaviors, and we split them in three main groups: communication skills, to be able to communicate correctly about the issues regarding the ocean, the agency, the ocean.
Allô?
So, and to believe in our own role as agents of change, and the activism to get involved in actions and initiatives that can contribute to solving environmental problems and that will mobilize other people to act along with us when trying to solve these issues. So we have then a new concept, which is a more wider concept, which is the literacy, environmental citizenship, which refers a comprehensive concept that involves actions of effective participation, but also to understand our role in solving these issues and so that we can have a change in our values and to promote this environmental change. So this concept of environmental citizenship will be almost like a goal for these campaigns for ocean literacy in the way that it's aligned with these principles. This seems a little bit complicated, doesn't it? And we think, how can we measure all these competencies and all these different dimensions which are interconnected? And it's not an easy task. I have been working, as I mentioned, in 2 projects, Almada and the Blue School with Raquel, Blue School with Raquel, who is going to speak, and she's probably going to speak about some of the outcomes and issues we've faced. But I think it's important to have a model to identify what are the dimensions here and how they interact among them, so we can understand what are the goals with our initiatives, with our projects, and how can we reach those goals. So this model that I'm telling you about, it's not a unique model. This is a proposal from our organizing these different dimensions. I'm not sure if you can see here on the top, but on the top it shows this environmental citizenship, which is a much wider approach, which will involve the environmental awareness and the pro-environmental behavior choices. So this environmental awareness will result in this knowledge and this personal relationship with the ocean, and it can manifest through familiarity, personal values and concern. And we have several ways to assess these subdivisions. And besides the knowledge that we are always assessing, we have ways to try to ask people to position themselves with and to try to understand in what way, what is the familiarity that they have, what is the concern they have regarding the environmental issues, and are we having any impact within this more personal dimension. As regards the pro-environmental behavior choices, we can think of these action skills like communication, agency, activism, and here we can try to understand where people are in regards to any of these different skills through several ways of doing so, but one of them, we wanted to carry on working on these questionnaires to ask people about their opinion and to get their opinion on how much they agree or disagree and have this type of skills. And just to finish now, in my opinion, I think it's fundamental that we use a mixed methodology. Obviously, we have to have a quantitative approach, which are the questionnaires, and these questionnaires can be used approaching these different dimensions, which we normally forget about. But we want to have a qualitative approach as well. We have to speak to people, we have to ask them for written reflections. There's always different ways of getting there to try to deepen our understanding on the impacts that we are having on this particular group, whichever it is. So this was a brief summary. It's just to give you an idea of a type of basis framework that we can use and we can discuss, and that you can help me perhaps to understand these type of dimensions, if we can work on them and how we can assess them as accurately as possible about the ocean literacy with our type of projects, initiatives. Thank you so much, Claudia.
The word for the discussion. And we now will have, well, one of the evaluated institutions is Raquel Costa. She's from the International Outreach of Escola Azul, and in fact the coordinator of Escola Azul. So Raquel, please.
Hello, Anna. Hello, everyone. I will switch to Portuguese now. I'm sorry, it's better. Eu vou partilhar a minha tela.
So I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. Okay.
Confirmem só se estão a ver.
Can you please let me know if you can see my screen? Yes, we can. Thank you. I would like to thank, before I start, for this invitation. And I'm going to start delving into it straight away, because what I needed to show and talk about would easily take an hour and a half, but we don't have that time. So what I would like to talk to you about is this Blue School evaluation. Obviously, I'm not going to mention everything. I'm just mentioning what I think it's important for this forum today. So the outcomes of this program that we had of the Blue School in Portugal, and to bring added value really to the other Blue Schools throughout Europe. So just to give you a framework, for those perhaps who don't know much about the program, in Portugal, our program has a framework. We have several documents, several international references, not just the Sustainable Development Goals 14.7, but also based on the international and national guidelines for education, official documents, the National Ocean Strategy for Portugal, and the principles of ocean literacy, not only the most widely used principles or guidelines and the ones that have emerged in the States, but also a new perspective with a more holistic approach. And this is the approach that we're using in this Blue School. And I would like to highlight this because in the outcomes, this approach, this more holistic approach and more widening approach, not just on the scientific level, has given us very interesting outcomes. These are the figures that we have after 4 years of implementation. We work with over 45,000 students, 315 schools. I know it's not a great figures, but it's quite a representative figures for the country, for the size of our country. So what have we done at the end of 4 years? We tried to assess what went well, what went wrong, the opportunities we've had, the issues we faced, our limitations. We should have done this before, but as you can understand, this requires time and money, and obviously this type of money is also very important. And we have to have it when we're developing these projects. It's fundamental to have a budget to develop these kind of evaluations. So what do we have? What did we do? We do an external evaluation, which we worked with a team with myself and the Blue School, and this took around 1 year to reach the results, and it's got a great amount of work behind. As regards methodology and the tools we used, it was a mixed methodology, qualitative and quantitative, and we've used several tools, analysis of reports, of content. We did interviews, focus groups, online surveys, and other data. And what for? So this was the three main questions that we've tried to get to a reply with this type of external evaluation. The first is this type of methodology really promoting ocean literacy in a reliable way in our schools? What is the program impact in the different participants? And what is the potential for growth and the replicability for to be used in other countries and other ways?
Very well. So in practical terms, what we did was a design of this evaluation plan with an external team, all players were reached, all teachers and also students, all towns, our partners, and also decision makers, and because they were closer to this program, the Blue School. About teachers and students, we did have online inquiries and we did have focus groups. About municipalities, we ran surveys, and for decision makers, we ran interviews. I just would like to say that the online inquiries for students especially had to be adapted, and it was really a lot of work to do that, because at least in Portugal we have preschool students up to the 12th grade, from 3-4 years of age up to 17-18 years of age. So the team had to develop questions adapted to the different ages of kids that we have in Blue Schools. And here I have just a few of the results, those that I believe that are more relevant to bring to you in terms to the strengths of the program. What they told us is that it is educational and political relevant. So there is a great will to learn more about the ocean and to have a closer relationship and more empathic relationship with the ocean, and it has to do with our culture and our history. Also as a strength, the methodology we designed is meeting the objectives that we intend to meet, and it is there, and which is to improve ocean literacy for students. And improving ocean literacy is not only knowledge, as Claudia said, but also is to improve literacy in the different dimensions that literacy involves. Another strength is the Escola Azul brand that for me was very interesting to see. For whether for stakeholders or schools, it is important to have that brand, because for them it will allow us to have a recognition, and also it is a motivation, as if they are part, and they really are part of a community pro the ocean. And this is very interesting for this forum. And finally, our last strong point here are the synergies created among different players in this network, synergies among partners, between schools and partners, and the synergy among schools, and also bringing closer the schools and the municipalities. These are strengths that we were able to achieve, and it has been very pleasing to see the community grow. Now, in terms of our weaknesses, and these are the ones that are the main ones here that we should dive into. The ones that were pointed out were the lack of logistical and financial support, whether from schools or partners that develop literacy initiatives, the lack of incentives for teachers to participate in projects, and not only here, I'm talking about the Blue Schools, but also other types of projects. And that happens throughout Europe, I'm sure. Professors, teachers do not have time allocated to develop projects that somehow are not recognized by the Ministry of Education. And this is a weakness of the Portuguese Blue School project, and also an opportunity. And we have to work on it, which is to get the validation from the Ministry of Education, not only in Portugal, but also this is a note for other countries as well, and potential networks that come to be created. It is important to have the Ministry of Education side by side to this type of initiative. Now, threats, I think it's important to mention them. They are the political recognition of the ocean literacy. This is a threat because, as you know, things are a fad, and when there is a fad, there is a political recognition. So when it is no longer a fad, it no longer has political recognition, and sometimes that type of program falls short from what we would love to see, which is to keep on growing. Another strong threat, and this is in global level, I'm talking about Portugal, but this is a global level threat, is the ocean literacy not be present in the international or domestic curriculum. And one of the objectives is really to have ocean literacy in the curriculum, because if it is not in the curriculum and that it's not in Portugal, so we need to work on that. I also would like to say that there are numberless topics here that I could dive into, and if you want to talk about them in another forum, I will be available to do so. And I would like to share with you that it is very important to receive these results, because only then we were able to see where and how we can move on from now on. So here I have a brief overview, a reflection that I would like to share with you. And because we have the evaluation of the Blue program, the network Blue Schools, but here we have tools of ocean literacy for our Blue School students, and these are our final objectives. I have here some of the dimensions that I believe are crucial to be analyzed and studied in students, and also for teachers, because teachers themselves show a change in some of these dimensions, and sometimes even better than the students themselves, at least in our Portuguese network. And Claudia already talked about that. I just would like to bring up the slide. So in order to analyze ocean literacy in the different levels, in the different audiences, we can only analyze knowledge. We also have to take into consideration several dimensions, And I think it is very interesting that people that are here that somehow are interested in investigating and going deeper and the impacts that the projects have in their audiences. I think it would be interesting to take these topics into consideration as well. Finally, I have to share with you my own reflection based on the evaluation of the Blue School program and also based on what was discussed with Claudia and other players that are related to literacy. And I think these topics are interesting to tackle not only Blue School in the domestic level, but also we have other interesting topics for the development of networks, whether in Europe or global networks of Blue Schools. I am sure that Blue Schools are a political tool nationally and internationally. This was mentioned several times in the report that we have for Blue Schools, and also it has been mentioned in the different forums in which we have been holding, especially in the Atlantic Blue Schools. I also would like to bring a very important reflection. I believe it's imperative to have dedicated teams and also financial support to implement the National Blue School programs, whether the domestic level or also regional networks or global networks. Also, a dedicated, well, having a dedicated team is without a dedicated team is very difficult to implement this type of program because the schools and partners need support, and we do have to have monitoring. Without that, considering my experience, without that, we will face obstacles and there's not going to be a continuity of the programs. I also believe it is fundamental to that ocean literacy is part of the the national curriculum. I already said that. Well, having ocean literacy in the curriculum is not the same as having ocean literacy in the school's program, and that's not as simple as it may seem. Why? Because if we look at the school programs, we have several topics. Ocean and the seas might be in the different programs, and because there are several names there, but in my opinion, ocean literacy should be in the guiding documents. For instance, in the documents such as we have in Portugal of education, if we do not have that, the document saying that ocean literacy is crucial for citizenship education, just giving you an example, we would have an open door. If we have that, we'll have an open door to implement projects and initiatives with another type, another approach in terms of sustainability. Just two more topics. Considering our national and international experience, especially with other Portuguese-speaking countries, the belonging feeling of a community in ocean literacy seems to be a very positive point, and that really pleases teachers. To feel part of a community is a monitor to continue working with literacy, ocean literacy in schools. And this is something that we have seen. And finally, I think it's important to have more research in ocean literacy. There is a lot to be done. There are no tools yet for the different dimensions in terms of the ocean literacy. So I think I already went over my time. I apologize, and I conclude here.
I think that it was so important and here. We had to hear you. So we now have Kushla, who is the coordinator of the Irish Ocean Literacy Network, which is also a long time established Blue Education program in Ireland. So Kushla, please tell us about your experience.
Thanks, Anna. Right, there we go. Thank you again for having me today and for sharing the Irish experience with the Explorers Education Program, which I manage in Ireland. I'm the Strategic Education and Communications Manager for the Explorers Education in Ireland, which is funded by the Marine Institute. And what I'm going to talk to you today is about the methodology of how we conduct evaluation with teachers and children and the teams that we work with, and also look at the benefits of evaluation of marine outreach programs and what we've learned. But first of all, by doing this, I'm going to tell you about a little story which highlights the benefits of the ocean, but also touches on some of the topics that have been talked about within the workshop and the experiences of real science and looking at the digital world and how they can be actually combined. A number of years ago, the Marine Institute was involved in an expedition which they discovered the uncharted hydrothermal vents in the mid-Atlantic. And that was what we did, is we collaborated with a school, an artist, and the scientist who had actually discovered the vents, and created a STEM project with the children, and where they got to involved with sort of like learning about the deep sea environment and the animals that were there, which were discovered, but also the life and experience of the scientists and what they did on the research vessel. And after they finished their project and they created their art installation, we brought the children to the research vessel, the Celtic Explorer, and also to see the ROV Holland, which was used during the expedition. And the children had already engaged hugely by working with the artists and the scientists through online activities and getting to talk to the scientists and the artists while they're actually out on the research vessel for another project. But when they were on the vessel, you can see in that little picture the boy, he's in the operations room where the ROV is controlled, and he got to sort of try the lever and move the arms on the ROV, where all the children were really excited on the outside, seeing the arms move with the ROV and seeing how it would potentially work underwater. And when he came out of the operations room, he said to his teacher, "I always wanted to be a farmer, but now I want to be a marine biologist." And I think that epitomizes the whole idea about how we bring science to children, but bring it to them in a real way, where they get that tactile experience, but they're also, and so they get, and it's all about the visual, but it's also about the touch and the emotional connection. And from that is also linking the idea of the love of, our love for the ocean. So with the Explorers Education, how we actually run the program is that the Marine, as I mentioned before, the Marine Institute is the national agency in Ireland for marine research, technology, development and innovation, and recognising the need for blue skills and ocean careers in the future. Back in 2006, we worked in collaboration with a number of educators, outreach experts, and the Department of Education support centres in the support centre in Galway, where we established the Explorers program and with the aim to help teachers teach marine in their primary school curriculum. And with that, with that, 15 years later, we now work with 20 outreach officers who are experts in marine education. They specialise in areas of STEM and STEAM. They have backgrounds in marine biodiversity, outdoor education, and ocean literacy. And now a lot of our program was in the when we first established it was the face-to-face interaction with the children and teachers, whether it be in the classroom or on the seashore, and obviously doing projects with the Marine Institute on the research vessel. But within the last 2 years, the outreach officers now are also experts in blended learning. And that is that whole idea of working with children online. And for some, it was really extremely challenging because they had the issues of actually having accessibility to IT and networks that they could actually engage with schools. Some schools in Ireland are quite remote. So many of them are happy to be sort of back in the classroom and back out doing field work with children, which was interesting because a lot of children were also feeding back the joy of actually being outside and being able to get that tactile experience. But being able to use technology while they're out on the field has been a really important aspect and something that is, there's potential there for future use of combining that blended learning. And I think that's a really good example. So what I want to sort of talk to you is about some of the steps that we've taken with evaluating our program. And the first step for the Explorers Education Program was the process of identifying and defining the program's goals and making sure that these goals are clear and measurable. And by doing this, we involved a number of stakeholders in aligning our goals. One is with the funders of the program and aligning with their goals and to make sure that there are linkages with what their objectives are. And primarily for the Marine Institute, that was promoting marine science and raising awareness about marine science and overall creating ocean champions. It's also identifying the educational trends and needs within Ireland, and many of those now is climate change, looking at marine biodiversity. And at the time when we established the program, science was just been introduced as a subject on the primary school curriculum. So there was a real need for teachers to have that support with teaching that sort of content in the school. And with that also came the need for providing teachers and student teachers with the opportunities of training. And then it was also interlinking with the learning outcomes and making sure that we had measurable outcomes so we could actually learn from them. Now, I know a number of the other speakers had talked about the importance of a mixed method approach, and I would concur and absolutely agree with that. One of the challenges that we have is also ensuring that the numbers are important, but they also need to be backed up with the qualitative evaluation as well. We base our evaluation process on knowledge, doing a pre and post ocean literacy quiz with the children. But we also, and what is really important for our funders, is that we are reaching certain targets. So we're increasing the numbers within the counties that we're reaching with children and with the outreach team. We're also increasing the schools numbers that we're reaching, but it's not just the same schools within certain regions, but also new schools that with the program, because it's very easy that once you get a school on board and who wants to do the Explorers program every year, that we have the capacity to actually introduce new schools to the program as well. We also deliver a set number of modules throughout the year, so we deliver 423 modules to schools throughout the year, and within that, and again, it sort of comes down to sort of capacity, and we could certainly deliver a lot more, but it is actually sort of documenting that demand for the modules. So we can't, we can only sort of do so much, but it's also important to recognise and acknowledge what other schools and teachers are actually wanting and who's wanting to take part. We also do the targets on the actual number of children. And again, that in Ireland, we can have schools that are in the country which may only have 25 children in the school, but then we have schools that are more city where you'll have 25 to 30 children in a classroom. So it's important to look at both those, recognise that it's important to look at both those figures of number of schools that we're reaching as well as the number of children. We, as I said before, we also do qualitative engagement. So I'm going to sort of take you through a bit of what we do with that, but it is that raising awareness and interest and understanding, and recognising that those three elements are quite different, as well as also communication, which is looking at 21st century skills. And the third element of what we do with our mixed method approach is also looking at feedback and observation. So that is getting feedback and observation from the teachers, looking at their self-evaluation, looking at getting feedback from them about their class observation, as well as we do interviews with the various different teachers. We also do inward evaluation, looking at how the teams are performing and what their challenges are, and monitoring what they're doing. And part of that observation is that the teams and the teachers would also be looking at what we do is we take photos, and the photos that we would be taking of the deliverables are used in an analysis, are used for analysis as well. And then of that, from that, we're able to do the reporting. So some of our figures, I mean, these are just a sample of obviously looking at Ireland. Eventually we wanted to make Ireland blue. And as you can see now, we're sort of fully coastal, but we're also looking, we've had interest from counties that are inland as well. So we work with 6 outreach centres with 20 outreach officers. In the last 10 years, we've been reaching up to 10,000 children per year. And this school year, we're on track with reaching over 12,000 children. So we, in Ireland, for a small country, we're reaching quite a high number of children who are interested in the marine. And one of the things those are the numbers that we are tracking, and something that we probably could be doing, but we don't have the capacity to do, but is looking at schools that also, we make all of our resources freely available on the Explorers website. So we're breaking down those barriers for teachers with their accessibility and having resources and content that that is fit for purpose. But we keep track of what is downloaded, but obviously we can't keep track as to how often it's used after the fact. We also engage with up to 8 department education centres, and there's support centres within every county in Ireland. So our objective is to try and be in contact and also engaging with all of them and we'd like to hopefully achieve that within the next sort of year or so. And we work with annually we do teachers training. So we work with up to 80. In the last sort of year we had, actually it was pre-pandemic times, we had 86 teachers that took part in our training program. And that we also recognise that working with the teachers and through teachers training, the getting that information back from them, because it becomes a sort of two-way process of we learn from them and they learn from us. But we also recognise that by the time they're at school and they've gone through their training process, they've already established what they're already working in a system. And it was highlighted before about the need of having marine on the curriculum. And even though the Irish curriculum is a fantastic curriculum for introducing marine themes, whether it's through science or geography or history, and there does need to be an approach of teaching introduced, which is more thematic. And if you can get that introduced at a level where teachers are just beginning with their careers, we realise that this can be done through the training process of teachers. So annually we are working with up to over 600 student teachers and introducing marine concepts and how they can use marine on the Irish curriculum. So we also, as I mentioned before, we do we look at the quantitative and look at ocean knowledge, their awareness, interest, and also the communication and engagement. And you can see through these figures what we do as a pre and post, because the importance of doing a pre and post is that by that there you can see how you've impacted through the program. So just with the knowledge, we've sort of did a pre, which is around about 59%, and then with an increase of 36%, taking it up to 81% knowledge rate. And that is just sort of indicative of the importance of starting with you have to start somewhere, and often when evaluation programs are done, they just do an after, or they just do one sort of test, whereas you need to sort of show what the pre and post. As also stated before, we do a qualitative data collection, and it's also this by other presenters have also said numbers don't tell the full story, and for that reason, we look at the students' practical work. We record their questions and answers through mind mapping. We also look at their projects, and a number of this highlights their skills in communicating and engagement with each other about the ocean. We also use interactive games as well as their classroom presentations. As I said, we gather through the process. We also gather a series of photos where we get an external party to assist us with the evaluation. So on an annual basis, we would be looking at over 1,000 photographs of the children and the team and teachers engaging in the ocean, and the photographs themselves can tell you a lot of stories. And as the old saying is, a picture tells 1,000 words. The final element of what we do with is observation and feedback, and by both the teacher and the outreach officer. And working in collaboration with teachers, we're able to gather data and additional feedback and conduct one-to-one discussions with teachers where they have recorded children's achievements and the challenges that they've had throughout the class project. And this feedback about the student skills they've developed highlights, again, the 21st century skills and the value of including marine on the curriculum at a young age. We often also get that feedback from teachers highlighting other skills that they've developed of collaboration and how the ocean provides a sense of wellness, and also the teamwork that children get working together on projects that are real, and have that hands-on, but also have the sort of like the emotional element, and also some children also have strengths in certain areas, and it opens up opportunities for the children to be working together and realise each other's strengths and celebrating those. Teachers also provide a self-evaluation of their own ocean literacy and the barriers to teaching ocean literacy in the classroom, as well as a review of the resources that have been provided with each of the modules that are delivered. And the form that they produce also concludes by asking them about the program itself and recommendations for the program. And
Kushla, I'm sorry, we really have to wrap this up. We still have 2 challengers.
Yep,
and we have
fine. So there's, and that was, I think I'm just saying, repeating and re-emphasising discussions that have been had already with regards to the importance of having fit-for-purpose content for teachers to be able to use. And so my last slide here is that unless we have that direct involvement with marine scientists and that, which digital experience can help children learn, no one's going to protect what they don't care about, and no one will care about what they've never experienced. So sorry, again, I probably ran out over time as well. So, but I thank you, and I look forward to the questions.
Thank you, Kushla. I'm sorry to have stopped you. It was all very interesting and comprehensive, particularly the results that you showed in the end about the real result, the results of the evaluation of the program, which we know is a very successful program. So thank you for this. We now, I believe that we have 2 challengers. We have Rita Borges from Oceano Azul Foundation, and we have Ivy Kopians from the European Network of Blue Schools. So I do hope we still have time to hear them. So could you please open the... Okay,
Anna?
so we'll start with Rita.
Hi.
Please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, so thank you for this invitation. I just would like to share with all of you the program that we are also implementing to promote ocean literacy in the first cycle of education. And that is also being subject of an evaluation procedure.
But Rita, please try to be really
I will.
Because I'm sorry.
I don't have any presentation, so I'll try to be quick.
Okay.
So this program is based pretty much on trying to capacitate teachers with training and tools, educational tools, so that they can overcome barriers to implement the ocean topics into the curriculum of the first cycle of education. And pretty much like Raquel said, we designed the model based on a very holistic overview of our relationship with the ocean. And so teachers receive the training and all this information, and we and the tools. And so we designed this, and it's still in a pilot stage, but we have already more than 1,000 teachers trained in 6 municipalities, because our model also is stuck in a very strong partnership, not just with the Ministry of Education, but also with the municipalities for a strong implementation at the local level. And so the teachers, since two years ago, the program is already being evaluated. We have designed an evaluation for 4 years, a longitudinal evaluation study, external. And after 2 years of evaluation, when compared the 6 municipalities results with a control group and a long time, what we see is that not just the students seem to know more about the ocean, but they also have stronger behaviors relation to the ocean, namely stronger perception of the importance of the ocean to their lives and how important or how much they affect the ocean in their daily activity. And so we also, this evaluation procedure also allowed us to somehow assess the adequacy of the tools that we designed and the things that we have been doing. And so we've been fine-tuning the model, fine-tuning the contents. We also identify which contents are more difficult for the teachers to work and to talk about the ocean with their students. And we've been, based on this, improving the program and developing new tools and also trying to respond to the needs that have been identified. And so this is, we will continue to evaluate. We are very happy. Of course, we had to change and adapt as well to the pandemics and with digital tools. And we also now have the ability to stimulate the community sense and the sharing of experiences between the teachers, which we consider it's really important, like Raquel also mentioned. And also we are strengthening partnerships with local NGOs because the mode for action is also very important. And we are increasing these partnerships. And for instance, in September, we were very happy with the results of a call to action for kids to clean up beaches. And we got more than 1,000 students from this first cycle that were really enthusiastic on this action. So basically it's this. I don't want to take more time. I know we are pretty much short of time, but it's this, and we will continue this evaluation. We now know which topics are more difficult, what are the needs in terms of more educational resources that we will try to develop in terms of the needs of the teachers.
Okay, thank you, Rita. So we see a lot of common aspects in all these programs, like, for example, the importance of the sense of ownership, like the Escola Azul has already and that you consider important, as well as the importance of partnerships. That is something that is very strong in Escola Azul and that we also transported, let's say, to the European network of Blue Schools, these main features. So I'm talking about the European network of Blue Schools. I now ask Evie Kopians to challenge you all with questions and with her knowledge in the field on how the Blue education movement is advancing in Europe.
Yes, hello everybody. Well, it's been very interesting to hear all your contributions and we can certainly learn from you all. I have many questions, but I will limit myself to a couple, and I hope we really can have this discussion at another time as well. My first question to you all is, imagine that there is a pot of funding to do research in for Blue projects or Blue School and Blue School networks. What would be your first research priority? Should I ask a second question as well, Anna, or we first have
please
time
do,
for them?
because
Yeah.
please do.
Yeah.
I think the wrap up is very quick, and it's just so please.
Yeah. Okay. Then another question I have is: do you measure quality of projects that have been developed by teachers and students? And are there any like success formulas that can be replicated internationally that you think of? And then another question, you all been involved with external assessment. Do these external assessments confirm your findings you have with your program, or did you have really unexpected outcomes? So these are my 3 questions.
And now, please, very quick answers.
Yeah.
Ok, acho que posso começar pela última, se a avaliação externa condiz ou não com as...
I will start by the last one. If external evaluations have to do with our expectations regarding the program, I can say that the best part of the results do have to do with our perceptions, except regarding the literacy dimensions in children. We expected we had greater expectations there when compared to the ones that we are able to have considering the results. And you know, all of us here in this forum, we know that children and the youth have acquired a higher level of literacy in the different dimensions of literacy. But in our case, at least in Portugal, and considering the data that we have, just 2 dimensions have increased, have improved. Out of 5 or 6 dimensions that we have in literacy, just 2 of them are positive, and they are awareness and knowledge. And this falls short from what all of us wished with our objectives of ocean literacy. And I'm talking about the Blue School programs, of course. And of course, I would say that if we were to analyze the Frederico Almado's project with Kids Dive, probably the results are in a fine scale would be much better. So this is my contribution to this question.
Yeah, Kushla.
Hi, thanks, Evie. To be honest, it was like before the questions is sort of like it's a melting pot of questions. But answering probably the question about if there was funding available is in actual fact, when we first started the Explorers, we had an evaluation, an international evaluation of the program, and we got some really good feedback about the program, which we knew the successes were, and they validated that. But they also gave us really good advice as to coming up with some best practices of how we can, and the tools that we can actually use with developing the program. And one of that was to do a study on looking at the barriers, and which is something that I ended up doing I did a master's in, is looking at the barriers to ocean literacy in primary schools in Ireland. And that one of the top 3 barriers that came out of that research, which are still prevalent today, is that the lack of teachers' knowledge and confidence in teaching about the ocean, and that highlighted the need for training and expanding on the training with teachers and the value that brings to teachers. So whether the ocean is on the curriculum formally or not, it enabled teachers to see how that they can introduce marine in other subjects. Often when we talk about climate change, we're talking about the ocean. as a good example. And then the other was the overloaded curriculum that, particularly in Ireland, and I know it's an international issue with teachers, but it's their lack of awareness of how they can actually integrate the marine on the curriculum, and to be able to do it through projects is a really good way of actually introducing concepts of the marine and using it in a cross-curricular way. The major issue that came up for teachers, and this applies to the digital conversation, is having the lack of accessible and fit for purpose content. And a lot of projects and a lot of EU projects and a lot of research projects produce content and put things up on the website with the expectation that teachers will just access it. But teachers don't then have to interpret it and change it for their students. So it has to be fit for purpose. And by that, you have to work with educators when creating content to make sure that it can be applied for schools. So hopefully that gives you some scope for further discussion.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Kushla, I think there's 3 people trying to react here. I'll first go with Claudia.
Ok. Em resposta à pergunta de se houvesse muito dinheiro para fazermos, onde é que nós...
About the question on financing available, I would like to see how we can turn these initiatives into self-sustainable initiatives over time. That is, if we can maintain independently by themselves without depending upon 1 or 2 people or not even the political decisions, this would be extremely important to see how we can achieve that. And I would like to have that in this type of investigation. Now about learning, as Raquel mentioned, I think I have 2 topics to mention. First, it's something that we have to build in the long term. It's something that we can work on, and the impact cannot be assessed in a short period of time. So this is a personal development that we work on, especially with children, and I believe the impact will be much greater than what we are considering. And another question, I do not agree with Raquel. I do not think it is only knowledge and awareness. I think there are other areas that we need to attain in these practical evaluations. I think these results are not well known yet, but I'm sure that we are getting results in other levels as well, as far as I can see that. And Raquel also mentioned Kids Dive from Frederick. I think there we had evident learning in other levels, but not only by assessment tools, but also by the observation that I made in the sessions where kids have presented something to other people. And I saw that was very clear, the learning process there. And I think we were able at the time to assess with the tools we had to evaluate that. So it's a matter of fine-tuning these instruments so that we can identify other impacts that we cannot register and measure as of yet. And that's all.
Thank you, Claudia. We have Frederico Almada had also put his hand on, and Rita. And I think we would finish by then.
Okay, can I jump in, Anna?
Yes, please.
Okay, first of all, let me thank you, both Raquel and of course Claudia, for your kind words. I would like to point out exactly, to pick up where Raquel told that if we make a zoom in the results of each project, maybe the results could be clear. And in fact, we are preparing a master degree thesis, which is also supervised by Claudia Faria here. And the results are kind of narrower than I was expecting first, because I could see the enthusiasm on teachers and students with Kids Dive project. But although the results are both positive and significant, they are only marginal. So this means that picking up now on the words that Claudia just added, I think that the fact is that we are not measuring. Maybe we are measuring what they are learning of different, but we are not measuring the enthusiasm and the passion and the dynamics that are created by the enthusiasm between teachers and students. And I think that's one of the downsides of these inquiries. And I'm actually learning now with Claudia the importance of this qualitative approach and the importance of these interviews with both students and the teachers, and also the interviews with the isolated students and with groups of students, because there are lots of dimensions that we are not being able to grasp. And actually, we have teachers asking to repeat this project with them. And this means something. This means that they are working on subjects related to ocean literacy and ocean conservation, and we are actually not being able to grasp it. Also, I have to say that the inquiries that we are talking about were made during the pandemic, and so this was a virtual Kids Dive edition and not a presential Kids Dive edition. And of course, a digital dive is different from an actual dive, and so I'm also expecting some differences in that perspective. Just to finish, I'm exactly in the process of figuring out how Kids Dive project can become independent from projects. What I mean is, Claudia was talking about the sustainability of these projects. And of course, this is important. If we have projects that are being a success and are being the teachers and the students are looking for this kind of projects, we must disconnect them from these cycles of 2 to 3 years when we get a grant and we get the financing that are needed to develop these programs. Of course, that when we end the project, we also lose the human resources that were applied during the project, and of course, the project actually dies. And so the issue here, and something that I would like all of you to help me, if you have any wonderful ideas to go from there, is how to become a permanent project. If we are actually collecting this kind of enthusiasm and actually having success in the results, how can we maintain these projects beyond this window of 2 to 3 years? That is one of the main questions that I'm trying to address right now with Kids Dive. Thank you.
Rita, you wanted to say something?
Yes.
I guess these are questions that nobody knows how to answer. I don't know.
Starting with this last one and picking on Frederico's, if funding would be unlimited, I would allow every kid to experience Kids Dive and or any other immersive experiences that create emotional connection, which is essential for the results of a good impact. And of course, more educational resources. And one thing that I would like to highlight, also picking what Raquel and Claudia were saying, is that I think we need, in fact, we need time. We need time, and evaluation should continue a long time because of that, because teachers, even when they really like the trainings and they really get enthusiastic, they need time to appropriate themselves with the contents and the ability of doing so. And another thing is that it's also, even when we consider things are flowing well, problems can happen, and trends can change a long time. if we are considering something that it's not mandatory, of course, and it's not part of the curriculum, it's always something that when new factors come in and jump that the teachers are obliged to follow, it will be sometimes released to a second plan. So even when we consider that things are going well, that can happen.
There is a question in the chat by Fernando Castillo. Can you please open the mic for him and the camera? He is asking that the evaluation and continuity of the programs is very important, and it would be interesting to know what percentage of students who attended the programs entered university careers related to the ocean. I would add university careers or any professional careers related to the ocean, and this makes the bridge to our workshop yesterday, which was about maritime careers. I guess none of the projects we have been talking about has a sufficient number of years for us to know. Maybe Ireland, yeah, you started in 2006, so maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually a good question, and it's something that we have always said we should have implemented that question or that research ability to know that answer in a formal way. But anecdotally, and from statistics, I think it was in one of the earlier presentations about identifying. One of the presenters talked about identifying where university courses that are available in marine the marine area, and I know that it has in the last 15 years the courses have increased, and universities are more open to including ocean literacy in a variety of different courses. So they may not necessarily be directly ocean courses in marine biology, but they may be courses in the digital sciences or the social sciences. So it's including the marine concept and the marine themes in their courses. But I also think it's really important to highlight that becoming ocean literate isn't necessarily about having a career, but it's also, you may be a banker, you may be an architect, and it's just as important for an architect to understand his impact on the ocean as the ocean's impact on the architect that he is creating. So it's a very hard thing to actually establish on a longitude sort of way as to whether or how impactful the ocean literacy in schools is. So hopefully that might give you some.
Thank you,
food for thought.
Federico. I think we don't have much time left. Just a very quick reaction. No.
Well, it's just an empirical actual information. This year, for the first time, I teach in a graduation in biology in Lisbon, and I had a student that approached me, and that just told me that he already knew me from a kids dive experience.
Okay, so that's.
School. And so this was the first experience of getting a student in graduation that already participated in kids dive. So
okay. So thank you for bringing that to us. So this is a first indication. Now we need the statistics. Again, regarding to what Kushla said yesterday in the careers workshop, we had a person from a digital IT high-level research center, and they said they had introduced environmental awareness as a course to their members. So things are progressing, but we need more of this. So thank you for coming, and we would now pass to the conclusion. Miguel.
Thank you, Anna. So time for wrap up and also for thanking. And I will start with the thanking because it was a very, very relevant morning today. I believe we fully achieved our goals of having a first panel completely dedicated to enablers and tools that can boost all the existing experiences. And now a second panel where we dive in the evaluation processes and details on how we can be more effective. Also, this is the conclusion of the 2 workshops that the first started yesterday and now today's workshop. And both we achieved our goal of having around 100 people, 50 people yesterday and 50 people in this workshop. And now we have work to do to execute our report and accomplish our main goal, which is from your ideas to understand the future path on these topics. So we thank you so much for the effort you made to be here sharing your knowledge. Thank you so much. Anna, I think we can conclude.
Yes, thank you so much. This is not the end. This is just the end of the workshop. I guess that many of these ideas and conversations will continue to develop outside the workshop. We will share with you the results and the contacts of those who allowed them to be shared. And I can also say that I recommended these topics for possible calls to be transmitted to DG MARE through our coordination, to the Portuguese coordination. So, of course, this will depend on the interests of the different governments to develop further this into real calls, but be prepared because the more important things are ideas and partnerships. And if you develop ideas jointly and develop partnerships, I am sure that funding will be found, let's say. So thank you very much for coming, for your ideas, for your discussions. We have taken good note of everything, and thank you. Goodbye.